I'm joined now by January 6th committee member, Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, and former SDNY civil prosecutor, Maya Wiley. Congresswoman, what does it mean when the committee now says the president was involved in this criminal conspiracy, and what are you getting at in the filing?
Well, it's important to know in what context this has arisen. Professor Eastman is asserting attorney-client privilege and to prevent the committee from getting a bunch of documents that we need. And there are a number of reasons why that fails. One, it's not clear he actually was the president's lawyer. You waive the privilege if the advice you give is not confidential, if it's broadcast, if it's put in books and on TV. Also, there's something called the fraud crime exception. The judge did ask the committee whether that was something that was at work here, and the committee thought we should respond because we think there is evidence to meet the standard for the judge to review these documents, and that is a reasonable person would believe there's grounds to believe that the crime fraud exemption exists. We have not delivered all of the evidence that we have, but certainly enough of the evidence to show that there was a violation of the statute, that there was an effort to obstruct the proceedings, official proceedings in violation of the law that Mr. Eastman was involved in, and asked the judge to take a look himself, not in open court, take a look at the documents to see if that isn't the case, and we hope that he will.
And Maya, there were people around Trump who basically went along with everything for 4 years or however long they were there, and then at the end said, I don't necessarily want to be involved in this. One of them was Bill Barr. He's speaking out today, really for some of the first time in an interview setting. Take a look.
And I told him that all this stuff was bullshit and about election fraud. And, it was wrong to be shoveling it out the way his team was. And he started asking me about different theories, and I had the answers. I was able to tell him this is wrong because of this. He was obviously getting very angry about this. I said, okay, well, look, I understand you're upset with me, and I'm perfectly happy to tender my resignation. And then, boom.
He slaps the desk.
He slapped the desk, and he said, accepted.
There with Lester Holt. Maya, your thoughts on that and all the above?
Well, my thoughts on Bill Barr deciding now that he's going to come forward with this very important information is both timely and late, all at the same time. So let's just say, but we did know already back in December, all of the public knew, including Donald Trump, that the Department of Justice had found no substantial evidence of any election fraud. We also know the Department of Homeland Security found that. And with this filing, we're very clear that even the attorneys inside the White House, and also, and importantly, Donald Trump's own campaign told Donald Trump in December that there was not evidence for this. That is incredibly important for a filing, whereas Congressman Lofgren has said the judge is asking about this crime fraud exception, because in this context, what we are hearing is that for basically a month leading up to what became January 6th and the statements you showed, Ari, at the beginning, the top of this segment, Donald Trump had been told repeatedly by his own appointees and his own campaign that this was not true. And what that means, particularly when you have this needs to be said, public needs to understand that in this filing, that there is the clear text from John Eastman to Pence's then Vice President Pence's counsel, begging him. He literally says, I implore you to make this small legal violation in acknowledging that he understands that at least part of what he's asking for is unlawful. So as far as I'm concerned, and when we hear a sitting member of Congress sitting on this committee saying there's more. All I can tell you is this is a shockingly powerful and compelling brief unto itself, demanding a criminal investigation.
Yeah, and that's striking coming from you as a lawyer. And we're talking about the president's exposure. And as the Congresswoman reminded us, if there are crimes that are actively being pursued, then lawyers and others are obviously not in the clear for that. While I have you, Congresswoman, I wanted to also ask you about some of the others who are ducking. And we try to emphasize this so people understand the full picture. Many, many people have cooperated with the probe. You've gotten a lot of evidence. As journalists, we then cover some of what's come out of that. So there is a lot that's happening. Plane crashes get covered more than plane landings, and the people resisting sometimes get covered more than all of those other witnesses. I think people understand that. And so take Mr. Navarro, who I mentioned earlier. You've subpoenaed him. He was supposed to, if he was going to comply, appear this week. He is fighting that. Here's what he told us when I asked about all this. You just think Mike Pence is wrong, doesn't understand the law or the Constitution.
Yes.
Why risk a legal battle or going to jail to refuse to discuss them with the committee under oath?
The president has invoked executive privilege. It's not my privilege to waive.
Well, understand that you've already
Stop
waived it by
right
discussing
there,
it. They want under
That's
oath. And
not
number
what
two,
happened.
finally,
I have not
Peter,
waived-
are you prepared to risk indictment for defying the subpoena?
I'll stand tall on this.
Now, this week, as mentioned, he seems to be fighting this. What is your response to his claims? Will you ultimately get his cooperation, or what's next?
Well, the actual president has rejected his claim of executive privilege. He needs to come in and talk to the committee. We've issued a subpoena, and that's not just a voluntary invitation. It's a legal obligation to come in. If he defies that, if he refuses to comply with his legal obligations, we'll take other steps to try and compel his testimony. But, you know, if he thinks he did such a great thing, you would think he would want to come in and tell his side of the story.
Maya?
I think that's, we leave that right there. That is absolutely correct. It is a legal document. I suspect he will be considering whether he wants to follow in the footsteps of others who have come before him, including Steve Bannon, and maybe he can stand tall in jail.